across the land.
Welcome to Reaching Out Radio, where God comes first, striving to deliver first-class entertainment spanning all forms of media, talking about important social and world issues, and advocating positive change in a lost and dying world. And now, here's your host, Ambassador Elisa Lane.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Listeners and viewers, our guest today, Michael James Lindell, additionally referred to as the MyPillow inventor, CEO, author, philanthropist, and film producer. And you all are familiar with that commercial. You all probably heard it a million times all over the world, and I'm sure you, like myself, have a MyPillow. I have about 2 of them. It's an honor to have you on our broadcast, Mr. Lindell. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. It's a great honor to have you on. And this is Jack Crane. Hi. You've written a very compelling autobiography with a captivating title. What are the odds? From crack addict to CEO. Share your story with us, if you will.
Well, it took 7 years to write that book, but it took 50-some years to live it. I've had 14 near-death experiences, but the main thing of the book is, it's not just about addiction. I used to be a cocaine addict, then a crack addict. I was compulsive gambling, but my story kind of starts back when I was 7 years old. My parents got divorced back in 1968 when divorces were not common, and I was put into a new school, and I felt like I didn't fit in. I mean, I was the only kid from a broken home, and I would either show off or I really wouldn't talk to people. I was almost kind of shy. I find out years later, actually, when I was writing the book, that it was like a fear of rejection. You don't get rejected if you don't talk to people, and I think that's where I think a lot of addictions, manifest from childhood, from wounds, father wounds, from trauma. And it manifests into addictions where you have false courage, you have mass pain, all these things. And I got into the early 80s into cocaine, where I could finally, I thought, be myself, or it was instantly, like I say, like a false courage, but. Interesting enough, I was at my 5-year class reunion. Now, I had dropped out of college and after the first quarter, and I was working at a drive-in movie theater and a grocery store. When I'd been just fired at the grocery store, and I was trying to tell him how to run his business. But anyway, at the 5-year class reunion, all of them had finished college, or a lot of them had finished college, advanced their careers, started families, and all these things. And I hadn't done any of that. But I took over the reunion, so to speak, and I started, bragging about, I owed the mafia thousands of dollars for football bets, for betting on football. And I told them I fell asleep on a motorcycle. Crashed it while I was going skydiving, and then I got down there after I got up from the motorcycle crash, and my parachute didn't open. So everyone's going, wow. Well, the stories were true, but I got home that night, and I was laying in bed, and I had this deep sadness. I wanted what they had, and it wasn't. And I wanted the family. I wanted that. That's all I could think of, and to be married, and then God granted me that. I prayed, God granted to me that, gave me on a silver platter. Here you go, and then I was married for 20 years and raised a family, a very functioning addict. I think I think people get a perception of addiction as an addict in the street that, homeless or whatnot. Well, that's not true. Addiction affects all of us. I think I say in the book, no matter how many forks you eat with. And I don't know how much you want me to keep going, but I had 20-year marriage, I was always an entrepreneur. I invented many, or basically came up with many business. My sister flooded a third-story building in an apartment once with a waterbed, so I became a carpet cleaner. I worked on my uncle's farm, and I said, why? He's making all the money. I'm going to go raise my own animals, raise my own pigs. And I went up to, it was basically almost a residential area, and tried to raise pigs. They all got out. It was a disaster.
Wow.
But I tried these different things, and it goes up. Do you want me to keep going on the whole book?
Well, we can't wait to get the book, and our listeners and viewers can really get the full story, so we can go on to the next question, Jack. Awesome, amazing.
Sure. No, I just wanted to say though. No, it's very interesting to hear you tell your story and how you managed to overcome, and you've had a very interesting, triumph over what you've been through. In fact, this leads into my next question, Mike. It's been said, you probably heard this, medically, that when one becomes addicted to drugs of any kind, of course, it can have a damaging effect on the brain, especially, with crack cocaine. I've met people that have been addicted to it like you were, and I saw that and how it affects them. But yet, in your case, it's a miracle. You in talking to you, you seem to have a good memory. It hasn't affected your cognitive, your function, brain function. You're able to operate a successful company. To what do you attribute this to?
Well, then I will take you up more in my story. So I had bars. Entrepreneur. I had bars for 13 years. Not a good place for an addict, but I was a very functioning cocaine addict, and that switched to crack in the early 2000s, which is a different drug than cocaine, it reacts differently. And anyway. So I ended up having to sell my bars, and at that time, about that same time, I had a dream of a pillow, and that was in 2004. Now I wasn't doing anything. I had no skill. I had sold the bars or sold the bar, but I would still have this. And once I got this idea for a pillow, which I got in a dream, I believe was directly from God, and in the dream, then I just dove into that for like a year, trying to invent it. And my son and I every day were terraform flying around the neighborhood, but on a parallel track, I was also addicted to crack cocaine, which is a very paranoid drug. And you get paranoid and you're tweaking. So there's it's not a very social drug either. So it was like it wouldn't be a daily thing with that, but it'd be daily with at least with cocaine. And but anyway, when I invented the pillow, I was turned down everywhere. I was turned down at retailers. I was turned down everywhere. Just kind of like. Right now, it's come full circle. They've all left my pillow. But anyway, someone said, well, Mike, why don't you do a kiosk? I said, how do you spell that? I didn't know what a kiosk was. And I went to do this kiosk. And now remember, I was straight, and I didn't have, you couldn't be in a mall on smoking crack cocaine. So I was, straight. I had this, what I thought was the best invention ever. But I only was there one day because I couldn't really talk to people. And, because the kiosks, they come right up to you. Well, anyway, this guy was there, and he said, do you have a business card? And he bought a pillow. I said, I'm all out, and I give him a number. I just give him my phone number. Well, we had 4 little kids at the time. I was married at the time. My wife worked most of those hours. And it got to the end. We had to borrow money for Christmas presents. We were completely out of money, and the kiosk had failed. And and then about 10 days into January that year, the phone rang, and it was that guy. The one day I had worked, the one guy with the phone number. He says, "Are you the guy that invented this pillow in Minnesota?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, it changed my life." And he said, "I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot in there?" And I said, "Sure." And these are home shows and fairs, and this was one of the biggest ones that we had. Well, when I got in there, I set the booth up different, and I put tables in front of me so they couldn't come into my space, so to speak, and I changed the advertising. I put behind a guaranteed the most comfortable pillow you ever own, and all these things. And I didn't know anything about marketing then. Somewhat, I had learned a lot. I guess I had learned a lot by trial and error in my bar days. But people came in that first day, and I probably sold more pillows than it was like that we were selling a week at that kiosk. I think I sold like 20 pillows. Well, the next day, almost every single one of them people paid to get back in the show to come up to me and tell me how much they loved that pillow, how much it helped them. And I just got hooked on that. It wasn't about the money for me. I loved helping people, and it was just, I couldn't get enough of that. So, I did home shows and fairs for years, making them during the week, selling on weekends at these home shows and fairs. But I also had a parallel railroad track of addiction, with the crack, and a lot of betrayal. If you read my book, there's so much betrayal in there. I ended up losing a 20-year marriage, and by 2008, everything was pretty much gone. My pillow was just a little blip on the radar, and the drug dealers. I was downtown Minneapolis, and I've told this story nationally many times, but I'll tell it again. I was downtown Minneapolis and hiding out. I had a warrant out for my arrest, and I came out of the bedroom, and 3 of the biggest drug dealers there that I deal with, they didn't know. They knew of each other, but they had never met. Well, they're all 3 standing there going, "You've been up for almost 2 weeks. You're going. We're cutting you off." And I go, being up means I hadn't slept. And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Is this an intervention or what?" He said, "Call it whatever you want, Mike." Well, 2 of them left, and the one guy, he stayed there and tried to wake me out. He said, "How much crack you have left?" I had just a couple rocks left, and I got done smoking them, and he finally fell asleep, though. It was 2:30 in the morning. Well, I went out the streets of Minneapolis, and I couldn't buy crack anywhere. I find out later the one drug dealer told me, years later, he said, "Yeah," he said, "I went down the streets and said, you sell anything to some crazy white guy with a mustache," he says, we're coming after you or whatever. And so anyway, I got back upstairs, and he's waiting up for me, the last dealer. He says, "How'd that work out?" He said, "How'd that work out for you?" And I'm all upset, and he said, this is what he said to me. He goes, "Man, you've been promising us for years that this My Pillow thing is just a platform for God, and you're going to come back someday and help us out of this addiction world we're living in, and we're not going to let you die on us. Well, what he was saying there is I would tell him that stuff all the time because I would, like, prophesize that, that I would quit someday and have a huge plan to help addicts out of addiction. And by the way, that's come full circle. 2 of them work for me now. They're born-again Christians. And I do have the Lindell Recovery Network.org, which helps millions of addicts, and it's free. It's out there. And but I didn't quit that day. I then, it was about 7 months later, and this is very important. 7 months later, I had nothing left, very little physical things left. I was living in a house out in this woods, and my friend, he was my equal in every way. This Dick Van Sloan, and we had both started cocaine in the early 80s, switched to crack in the early 2000s, but very functioning addicts, and and I heard he had quit 4 years earlier and found the Lord, but I had not seen him in 3 or 4 years. And he came popping in there, and I go, Dick, what are you doing here? And he said, the Lord led me here. He says, what's up? What's going on with you? And I said, well, as long as you're here, I said, I got some questions for you. And the first question I asked him, I said, Dick, is it boring? And he said, no, man, it ain't boring. And I drilled him for like 2 hours of questions, and realized I had been in treatment before. It was a game we played in the 80s and 90s. You lose your license, you go to treatment to get less of a sentence with the police, with the judges, and you go to these secular treatment centers. They tell you how bad a person you are, and you get out of there and end up going right back to where you were. But it was different with Dick. Because I respected, I call it my hope match. He gave me so much hope. And a month later, on January 16, 2009, everyone says, was that your bottom? Well, I made sure I didn't have any physical things left, like money or whatever, but that wasn't the deal that day. And I knew if I went one more day, that my calling would be gone. Everybody's got a calling, and I had been just procrastinating. I knew I had a calling, but I also knew one more day and it would be gone, and it'd be another path. There'd be 2 paths, and there'd be never returning to that calling. Well, I prayed to God that night, and I said, you know what? I said, it was kind of like making a deal. I said, I want to wake up in the morning and never have the desire again for any drugs, alcohol, anything, and then I'll do this platform thing. And I woke up in the morning, and it was like Groundhog Day. I go, something's different. And the desire was gone. I've never looked back on that. And I looked in the mirror, and I thought, wow, physically I looked good. There was a kind of a miracle there. When you talk about, and not to say crack's better than a meth or whatever, but with meth is the drug that physically destroys bodies. And I had never gotten into meth, but crack does enough damage, but and smoking, I quit smoking then too. So, but it was, that part was a miracle that I hadn't done more damage physically. And, but I will say this, then, that's not where I was saved though. That was the day that, that I quit everything and that miracle happened. You had it about 2 months later, I actually went to a treatment center at our church. It was a little outpatient thing, and I felt led to go there, and I went there, and it was different. I got in there and I started bragging up on how much drugs I had done and all this in my life. The guy goes, we don't care what you've done here. Tell us about your father. And I go, what do you mean? My father's fine. I said, well, they divorced when I was 7, and And anyway, we went back in time for things in childhood, and the things I learned in there, and they're trying to restore. You know, it was basically get your heart restored and find Jesus. Well, I didn't completely finish, so to speak, what I was there for, and but I did plant a lot of more good foundational seeds, and then from then on, I ended up 2 years trying to get my pillow back. You know, shows had all been taken. People had betrayed me, and finally in 2011, I told my friends and family, I said, if nobody will take my pillow and nobody will accept this, no box stores, nothing. I said, we had done shows after show after show, from state fairs to all across the country and Canada even. And I said, you guys, let's all put our money together. I said, I have a dream. We're going to have the biggest infomercial in history. And I didn't know infomercials don't work. They're just to go into the box stores, and they cost you money. You don't make money on them. It's to get into the box stores, but the box stores wouldn't take me, so it was kind of like I was going into something I didn't know would fail, and I didn't believe it would. If somebody would have told me that, I would have done it anyway, because I don't like people that say you can't do something, and that it's impossible. And we went to film this. We pooled our money, and that was the summer of 2011. And I told these professionals that I wanted a real audience, and I wanted to just have me and a friend of mine that we did shows with, because they knew we sold really good at the shows. And they go, no, you need an actor. This will never work, blah, blah, blah. And I wouldn't listen to them. Well, the night before we were doing our reads, and this producer from California texted the other guy, and he said, this is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV. And the guy said, oh, be quiet. He's paying you. Just let it go. And the next day, when we filmed it, I was scared to death in front of the camera. I couldn't talk. And they finally we pulled down the teleprompter and brought in a table, so it was kind of like my shield against the public, or getting back in my zone, and we filmed it, and it aired October 7, 2011. I was living in my sister's basement, and
wow.
And she, when it aired, I had 10 employees, and 40 days later, I had 500 employees. By December 26th that year, we were the #1 infomercial in the world. And over the next 6 months, they go, Mike, you need to be CEO. I go, why do I want to be CEO? I just want to help people and make pillows. But other people were running different things, and big companies took advantage of us. And we took in $100 and some million in 6 months.
I'm going to have you to hold that thought, because we're going to take a commercial break. This is very interesting. You guys are hearing this? What a story. We're going to go into commercial. We'll be right. Just hold that thought. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages to hear the final conclusion of this story with Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. We'll be right back after these messages.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Reaching Out Radio, where God comes first always. And our guest today is Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. And before we went into commercial, he was sharing a fantastic story. A lot of this you can get in his book, and we'll tell you how you can get a copy of his book by visiting our website at reachingoutproductions.com, reachingoutproductions.com. So we're going to continue his story. All right, Mr. Lindell.
Well, like I was saying, we we grew so fast. We went from, a couple 100,000 a year to overnight we took in $120 million in 6 months. And that was in the spring of 2012. But there was a big problem there. It all sounds real good, but I woke up that one fateful day in May and realized we were $6 million in debt. And I didn't use a bank. I would have to work the rest of my life to try and get out of debt. I was devastated. And the mistakes that I made, though, in 2012 by trusting other companies, I would do handshakes and say, is that the best deal you have? And they go, yep, that's the best deal we got. And all these things, I got taken advantage of, people that I let do things that didn't know what they were doing because, I guess I put in a lot of trust that I shouldn't have. But I learned if 2012 hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I'm at today because after that happened, we did get in box stores then because they had seen us all on TV. So I got in there, and the shopping channels, and got real known. But then when the infomercial finally fatigued, by the summer of 2014, we were within 2 days of going under again. And once again, I think it was almost $6 million in debt. And then I met a gal named Kendra, and I was single then, at that time because I had that 20-year divorce. And anyway, I had fell away from God and at that time, and it took everything kind of for granted. But then when I met her, she said, we need to pray for favor, and she had something I didn't have. She kept saying, she had this relationship with Jesus, and I said, yeah, I got that. I believe in God. And I always wear my cross on TV, and I even wore it back in the crack houses. I always wanted to be that person. And well, anyway, it was. I decided that was in the summer where I did pull everything in house, every single thing from everything you would do in a business. We pulled in house, like my own advertisement, my own call center, everything, emails, everything. And I said, I'm going to do them all myself and view each thing like it was my only thing, like each radio station, like my only station, each spot, like it's my only spot. And because all the stuff that I learned that didn't work in 2012, I learned from that. And I think people in business, you can all learn from that. I've said it before. You got your baseline and look for deviations. If something really good happens, you learn from it and you expand on that. If something bad happens, you learn from that, and that can even be more of a better lesson. And you don't make the same mistake again, but look what went wrong and look at that and do a different input. Well, anyway, so I decided I did a commercial then in the fall of a 1 and a 2 minute commercial in the fall of 14, and they didn't work, and so I didn't have an answer in my. Which I didn't like being in the commercial, like I say, I had a hard time speaking in public, and look, I never thought I'd be where I'm at now after I was talking, but anyway, this one gal in the company she said, you need to be in the commercials, because I'm so passionate about the product or about anything that I believe in, and so I went in and it just started to explode, and it exploded. Well, then you get to the summer of 2000 or the spring of 2015, and now I'm going to lead up to where I was born again and saved. I always look at mathematical odds, hence the name What Are the Odds, from Crack Addict to CEO of my book. And I look at mathematics that God exists. I look at, wow, there's a 1 in a million, there's a 1 in a billion, and this thing is impossible that it could happen. And when do you mix them all together and it becomes a miracle? And things started happening to me in the spring of 15 that don't happen to anybody. And it was, I had a dream that I'd be meeting Donald Trump, and I'm going, why would I want to meet Donald Trump? And then a month later, he announces he's running for president, and I seen myself in a room with him, in a room, and I'm going, I don't know anything about politics. I'm an ex-addict. I had never voted. I didn't know anything. And things just started happening up to 2017, where Ben Carson was still running for president. I went to the National Prayer Breakfast, and I was randomly picked out of that huge audience. There was 12 of us picked to go pray in a room with Ben Carson, and I'm going, I didn't know about praying. I'm going, I hope they don't pick me. And there was 12 of us in the room, and I remember one of the guys prophesizing. He said, a couple of you are going to become great friends and change the course of history, or help change the course of history. Ben Carson and I are great friends now. And but at that time, I'm going, these things that kept happening to me, being randomly picked for this and this. And then I was actually in an airplane in the summer of 16 then, because I had told everyone about the picture of me in my mind of being with Donald Trump in this office with these pictures behind me. And anyone that's known me, I've had these God dreams. Well, and it was late July of 2016, and I was on my way to California in an airplane, and I was in the bulkhead, and I had opened up a magazine about Donald Trump, and I finally just shut it, and I said, God, what do I have to do with Donald Trump? And I said, I need to know right now. And at that moment in time, my phone dinged, and it says, Mike, this is Donald Trump. Will you meet me in Trump Tower in New York City? And I went, God? I mean, it was such an answer. It wasn't I was meeting Donald Trump. It was an answer in real time. And I'm starting to bawl, and the flight attendant's going, are you okay? I said, yes, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Well, we went, that meeting ended up coming to fruition August 15th of 2016. And you had that meeting, and then you had another one where I was walking. I got invited then after he was elected president. I get invited to the White House for a manufacturers summit. And I never thought I'd be within 1 foot of the White House with my past. And here I walk into the White House, and I'm getting this big round table thing, this big table. And I said, who's sitting here? And he said, the president is. And when we went live on TV, it was just me and him staring straight to the camera. And all my friends, my addict friends back home, that these crack addicts and what have you, go, what? What is this crack addict doing sitting next to the president? Jesus is real, because this is impossible if it wouldn't be for God's hand on it. And a lot of them quit that day. But it was things like that led me up to, are you ready for this? February 18th, 2017 is the day I went into this, it was like a retreat type thing. They call it a drop zone. It was actually for veterans, and I'm not a veteran. But Kendra and I, we both agreed I'd go in there, and I went in there with hope. And on that day, February 18, 2017, I got on my knees. I surrendered to Jesus Christ, and it was like the biggest relief I've ever had. It was like now I could go out. Just 2 months later, I went out, and I was speaking in a stadium in Minnesota to 50,000 millennials leading a prayer. And I ended up 2 weeks later, I was at an amusement park with my granddaughter, and all these millennials are coming up to me going, oh, I heard your story. I heard your prayer. I found the Lord. And right then, I felt just like I did back when I knew I was on the right path selling them pillows, when those people came up to me, and it made me feel so good. And hear that my path lined up with that, my evangelical calling. And that's where it's been. It's been sitting at this, God did use that, my pillow just for a major platform for such a time as this.
Wow, that is an amazing story. And
so, Jack, wow, unbelievable.
Wow.
This is a great story. Okay, Jack,
it
your
really
next question.
Is. Yes. Mr. Lindell, modern idols, come in many forms and are more subtle than ancient ones, such as worshiping the golden calf. And as a crack addict, was there a point when you realized you had made the drug your idol?
No. I think for me, cracks are different. Like I say, it's of all the drugs, you can't go without it. I mean, it's just, I always thought that I would quit. It was really different with me. I always had that hope. And when my friend gave me that hope, I think people get trapped. You talk about, it's more of an escape. If it's an escape from an escape or to mass pain, I think it's, I don't know if you're idolizing it, but it's just covering something up that the devil's lies that tries to get in there, like I say, from fatherlessness and things like that. And it says, I'm not good enough. You're not worthy. You're worthless. You can't do this. You can't make it. And so I think I don't know if the people, if I would use a different word, I would say, that's what addiction is. It masks pain. It gives you false courage. It gives you, it does so many things. And, but that's why secular treatments fail when, secular treatments have like treatment centers, less than a 5% success rate, where faith-based, like Teen Challenge, Unity Golf, Salvation Army, these places have 80% and plus, 80% on up, and there's a reason for that. You go into a secular treatment center and they say, oh, you've hurt your parents, you've hurt your kids, you've spent all your money, they shame you, and you feel worse than when you came in, when you go out, and now you don't have anything to mask that pain, and you're just waiting for Uncle Ray or something to happen, Uncle Ray to die, or maybe your wife doesn't come back to you, or your kids still hate you, and you just relapse then because you need something to cover up that pain. Now, a lot of people don't realize it at the time, but I want to tell you this, that how important people talk about family and how we've taken God out of our schools. I'll tell you how important that is. There was a poll in a prison in Kansas a couple years ago. How many inmates, now these are felons, so that's these are prisons, not jails. So how many of them what a percentage of them were both their parents got married, planned to have a child, had the child, and were still married while they were in the prison? The percentage is zero. Now you go down to the county level, the county jail, which is your misdemeanors, gross misdemeanor. Now it goes up somewhat. You go out where your person's never been in trouble. You can even go up further that the family unit stayed together and they had some foundation of God in their life. So when you say, idolizing, I think by the time you get into the addiction phase, I think it's more of a mask for pain and than anything else. I think the false idols and stuff come before that.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and you're absolutely right about the breakup of the family and everything you're saying, and it is so true. The reason I brought that up is because in our modern culture, there are some people do, get into different forms of idolatry. There's drugs, and then there's celebrities, and as we see. And Ambassador Elisa also became an addict, and I think she can vouch for the fact that what you say about when you say these treatment programs don't have God in them, and she was able to overcome her addiction through finding the Holy Spirit, So, Elisa, why don't you share your experience with Mike and our listeners and viewers,
My experience of with what?
No. I wanted to make sure I hadn't lost her on the line or something. Are you there, Lisa?
Yeah, he was saying basically that addicts come in different forms. I had an addict. My addict was Michael Jackson. I literally put my whole soul into him. I idolized this man, and when he died, I cried out from the pit of my soul from his passing, and God withdrew his presence. That was the first time God withdrew his presence because he won't share his glory with anybody, and that influenced me to give up my idol, and he intervened with you, his way, your way of giving up the cocaine addiction. My question is, I listened to a few of your interviews, and you stated that meeting former President Donald Trump was a divine appointment from the Lord. That really touched my heart. And when it comes to your political views, do you feel that our country is divided and need unity?
I feel right now we're in a time in history that's going to be a great unity. I don't believe that it's as divided at all like people think it is. Mm-hmm. I don't believe there's racism like there used to be years and years ago. Because I've lived down in the inner city, I've lived everywhere. I have my employees. I have every race you could think about, and if we don't think about it like that, we think about it as people. I think this is done by media. It started in the Obama when he was in. I think the media and that started to divide the people or say they're divided and say, oh, there's a division, there's a division. I can walk down the streets of this country. I went on Jimmy Kimmel. Sure, he attacked me. That's his shtick, but I'm right in California there. And just because people have different political views, they come right up to me and we talk, and it's not like people think. I believe right now that here's what I say. I said this before the China virus, and I'll kind of lay this out here. Think of December 2019, everybody. That was a beautiful time in history, and we had gotten there by political decisions. I don't care if you didn't like the man or what. We got there by political decisions. And politics affect us so much, I've learned that now. But where we were at that time, I was out with a guy that I had just met, and he said, Mike, our nation has turned its back on God. And he said, to get people back to God, you'd have to have something, a disaster or something like the Great Depression. And I said, no. I said, in the Great Depression, I said they had God. They were just praying for food and shelter and things like that. I said, we have something better than that. We have addiction. We have the opportunity. I said, they're praying for souls. They're praying for family members themselves. They're praying for eternity, for their souls. And I said, we have addiction. And at that point, I thought that was the greatest opportunity that you could think of, like my LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. You go there, you see all these hope matches, and getting off drugs, that's just a bonus. You're getting to the Lord. You're getting to that relationship with Jesus. Now, we have something even better than that now. Along comes a China virus, and along comes a fraudulent election, and this media canceling out of our culture, which I'm number one on their list to erase. And what happened in our country right now, and this is all going to come out, but what's happened is when we get through this, and I won't even go into what I could go into because I don't know where this all gets played, so you don't get taken off your platforms. So what I'm just going to say is when we get through all this, this will be the greatest uniting of a country in history, and we will once again be one nation under God. You're going to see more people come to Jesus than any other time ever. This is the greatest revival in history, and it's the people are closer than you think. All people, I don't care what political party, I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, it doesn't matter. It's the media, it's these hard fringes that are out there, and these are people that didn't have the Lord. There's a whole generation there where God was taken out of you go back to the riots last summer and stuff. That was a little like a 15 years you could put from one person to that other person, and there was a generation where they didn't have God in the schools, and then you're teaching these things in college that aren't of God, and so I really believe we're in the greatest time ever because there's going to be so many miracles that unfold here, and a lot of them this year, and people are going to see it for what it is, a miracle, not just, this just happened. I mean, look at the things that happened in the last year and a half. If you'd have looked into the future back in December of 2019, everyone would have said, you are crazy. There's no way that can happen. They would have laughed at you. They would have laughed under the table. They'd have put you in a home somewhere, or something. And now to see people out there that are saying the opposite, that great things are coming, is that so hard to believe that there's miracles coming when you just seen things happen that you couldn't believe that were bad? And I believe that's an opportunity in history when things are so bad. You look at anything in history that was tragic and it happened, and how many people came to the Lord because of it.
Amen.
What you're saying is so
Why do you think
true,
that people making such a big deal with these ugly allegations with you working, with the former president? What do you think this mystery? Why so many people are upset because you're, have a relationship with Donald Trump? What's going on? What do you think is going on? And get bashed on Jimmy Kimmel?
Right. Well, here's the thing. I can tell you, and it's very fortunate. My company and they're like a family to me. I have 2,500 employees. We've been conditioned. We're kind of used to it now. But the first time the attack happened was when I met Donald Trump on August 15, 2016, in that private meeting. I walked into that room, and here's just a businessman from Minnesota, never gotten into politics or anything, and I walked in his office, and he had called that meeting for me just to ask me a lot of things. He goes, Mike, you make your pillows here in the U.S.? He says, how is that? And I go, it's great. And I said, I love it. We talked about the money that, do you really save overseas? And that he goes, I'm going to bring the jobs back, the manufacturing back. I told him I was a ex-cocaine addict, crack addict, and I said, I'm going to have this Lindell recovery network. And he said, I'm going to stop the drugs from pouring in. And he just had all these great business ideas. It was like, wow, this is cool. He's going to, if he really does all these things. And I went out, and it was a little over a half-hour meeting. I went out, and I said, you know what? That's just too good to be true. I read people. I've had knives to my head, guns to my head. I've been in all. You guys read my book. It's absolutely the situations I were in. But I had to read a lot of people, especially owning a bar for 13 years. And I read him in that room, and he only had one agenda, and that was to help people, all people, and to help our country. And there was he didn't want money. He didn't ask for it. This wasn't a money grab. This wasn't anything other than that, because nobody knew about it but other than me at that point. Well, I went out and I talked to his employees, and every one of them said the same thing. Great boss, great man, great person, had done something for them personally. And I went back to Minnesota, and I couldn't wait to tell the media, and I was the media's darling. Let me tell you, I could say, hey, I'm walking across the street. Every single outlet would be there. How many more employees do you have? Wow, it's the American dream. This crack addict now to the CEO, and there was just the story everybody was talking about, right? I get back to Minnesota, and I do a press release and say I met Donald Trump. And I didn't even say what we talked about. It was crickets, and then it happened. The attack started on social media. I was called a racist. I was called everything you could imagine, but I thought they were real people. Well, then the real people piled on. The Better Business Bureau, that I had an A+ rating, I was up for their highest award. They attacked me and gave me an F rating. So I went. And by the way, everybody, it's still an F, and that's just fantastic. They're the most corrupt organization, or one of them. They're right up there, the Better Business Bureau in this country. Let me tell you. This pay-per-play thing, that things different businesses have going on. But anyway, so we were attacked then, but we got through it. We got through it better, bigger, and stronger than ever. And then you've got to fast forward. Once you get through it, you break through. Everyone's going, they would always try and boycott me on like if on Fox or whatever. And I go, you know what? I advertise on CNN and MSNBC too, and they badmouth me directly. That's what I would tell people. But you still have these bots and trolls going, boycott Mike Lindell and My Pillow, and then somebody else would say, don't boycott him. He'll double his ass. We see enough of that jerk. And you had all these things going on, and then you get up until a year and 2 months ago, where the president brought some CEOs to the Rose Garden, and I got up there and I felt led to say we need to spend time in our Bibles and get back in the Word and spend time with our families. You would have think I shot someone. I was attacked relentlessly for a week. Granted, there were good and bad. I did 109 interviews in 1 week. And then last summer they had brought a cure, a therapeutic to me. I tried to get that out. We were attacked again. And after this election, I wasn't attacked after the election. I was attacked on January 9th on. And that's where, people kept bringing me things about the election. So from the time I got that's when the attack started. And that's when all the box stores got attacked. Everybody I worked with, every box store dropped me, shopping channels.
Yeah, including, okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break because I want to talk about how your product got pulled off the shelves. This is unbelievable. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back to Reaching Out Radio, where God comes first always. This is Ambassador Elisa. Joining me is Mark Munson, our publicist, Jack Crane, and our guest, Mike Lindell. We're going to get to the root cause of why Mr. Lindell's pillows has been pulled from different companies. I know Kohl's department store is starting to, you're hearing them, there's a lot of controversy where they're pulling his product, and we're going to get into the depths of why is this happening. Also, let's keep in mind that God is the judge, so we're not taking anyone's side. God is in charge of, he said, judge no one. So are we judging this man? Do we find ourselves judging him? That's what we talked about the first hour of the show. Who did God give you permission to judge? So, Mr. Lindell, why was your product pulled from the different companies?
Well, when I got up, just like everybody else, on November 4th, there were so many deviations, and it was an anomaly that I've never seen in history. Well, I deal with numbers every day with over 5,000 TV and radio stations. One of my strengths is mathematics and deviations and numbers. And I was also a professional card counter for decades. And I started looking at numbers of precincts. I started looking at numbers and of states across this country. And I started pouring resources into because none of them made sense. But one of the things, and as we know, we all went through that of, all the stuff that didn't make sense of, hey, you have proof that this happened and proof this happened. It doesn't matter. We're not pulling the election down. And which for me, I knew there was something bigger there, that people could not have done this. The numbers were too big. And it was very frustrating in November, December for me going through these and going, this could not have happened by, you couldn't find enough in this many people to change this many numbers that didn't make sense to the right numbers. Well, anyway, on January 9th, I was actually given, people started pouring stuff to me, getting stuff to me, and, it's like, here's evidence of this, here's evidence of that. And I'm going, everybody's seen that stuff or heard about it, but no judges would look at anything. Supreme Court didn't look at anything. Nobody, it was like living in the twilight zone. Well, then on that fateful day in January, I got a piece of evidence that was different. It looked like something out of it was data from a machine or from a computer. And I got this, and I dug into this, and I found out who got it. They're called packet captures, and a packet capture is from, you can look it up online. It's just a transmission that goes through the internet, and if you capture, it's like taking a picture in time. And anyway, well, I took that, and I started voicing. I tried to get it to the president. That was on January 15th, and from January 9th on, as soon as the whole world knew that I had this evidence that was different, that it was from a cyber attack, and from that point on, then they went into full attack on Mike Lindell. Big Tech attacked me, Twitter. They dropped both my Twitter accounts, my personal and my pillows. They attacked my Facebook. They attacked all vendors. They attacked, I have a little plant in the UK. I have vendors in Australia and that. They attacked them all. They attacked every person I dealt with. And what I mean by that, these are electronic bots and trolls. People think they're real people. They're real people, but they're duplicating hundreds of things like on let's say your Kohl's on social media. You got to drop my pillow, blah, 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 and attacking them. So they all started succumbing to cancel culture. Kohl's, Bed Bath & Beyond, Costco. I mean, we lost and then QVC, HSN, every box store other than maybe 4 we have left. every single day that we get 4 are dropped. And you know what? That was just fine with me because what I had for evidence is non-subjective, and every day I got attacked. All the media has my direct phone number. I don't have a PR company. All the bad media, from Jim Acosta to the New York Times, Washington Post, they all have my direct number. They would call every day, Mike, you just lost 4 more vendors. How do you feel about that? I go, did you hear about China attacking us, this cyber attack through the machines? And I would name the machines. Everybody knows the name. It rhymes with Dominion. And every day these attacks went on and on and on and on. So finally I said, you know what, I'm going to do a movie. I did a movie called Absolute Proof with evidence in there, and that launched on February 5th at 9 a.m. 150 million people seen that, but then it was canceled on all platforms, YouTube, Vimeo, Google. I can't even purchase my own name anymore. I can't buy Google AdWords. Wikipedia took over my Wikipedia. It's been an all-out assault. And that completed. We just got straggles left of social media. So then I went out and created my own media platform, put millions of dollars into frankspeech.com so I could play a place where I wasn't canceled. They tried to cancel out everybody's voice in this country to take away our free speech. And we right now, and then what I did is I spent millions of dollars validating the evidence I have, hiring people. They're called white hat hackers from the government and other people. They're called cyber forensic experts, hiring these other people, and they validated it's 100%. And then finally now, coming up here in August 10th, 11th, and 12th, it's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It's a cyber symposium. I'm inviting over 100 and some cyber experts, all politicians and all media. It's not open to the public. I'm giving them the packet captures for the whole election. And finally, my job that God's had this platform for is done. Here you go. And once everybody sees everything, then I don't, I don't think they can erase everybody,
Yeah, they're just bad mouthing you because of you had proof.
You got Satan pissed off, and you got you got the enemy, because you're literally being attacked, and you have a relationship with God. How did Donald Trump when all this was going on? What did Mr. Trump have to say about all this?
Well, he was. Just now till recently, I mean, there was like 3 months there where he wasn't in the news at all. And just in the last couple months here now, he's seeing, states that are doing audits, and it's all going to come down. I've said it very publicly. This election's going to be taken down 9-0 by the Supreme Court. You can go to frankspeech.com and watch Absolutely 9-0, and it says it right there. What's going to happen after we do this symposium? We're bringing it to the Supreme Court, and it's non-subjective evidence. So I think he's very excited. Here's what he's excited about, that there's hope now, because he was whenever I talk to him, he goes, Mike, look what they're doing. Look what they're doing to the country. They are destroying it day by day. Even Democrat friends of mine are going, we didn't vote for this. I said, no, you did. This is the CCP. This is communism. Came into our country. The first thing they do is took away 50,000 union jobs, and 13 of those have already committed suicide. I mean, it's not just the price of gas that everyone's going to pay double. Everything you have now is going to be higher priced, and everything that they've done, keeping the border open. That doesn't help anyone. And political decisions, if it doesn't help either party, or a liberal or a conservative, who does it help? China? I mean, come on, everybody. This is real. But he's very concerned that the stuff that that was done, the place our country was in by December of 19, that it can be damaged so much before things get overturned. And he does say this, and I want everybody out there, there is no 2022 or 2024 if you don't fix 2020. I remember I told you I gave advice to entrepreneurs and businesses. Look at your deviations, and when you have good ones, learn why they happen. It had to be a different input. If you have bad deviation, look and see what made it go bad, and you fix that. Well, right now, if our elections go forward, and you can all see this, if you have listeners out there going, oh, Mike, we've heard your stuff. We got 10th, 11th, and 12th of August. The whole world's going to watch. It's going to be more watched than Elvis Presley, Hello from Hawaii. Everyone's going to be watching this, and we're dumping it. It's non-subjective evidence, but I'll tell you what, you can never have computers, i.e. machines, running an election ever again. We're in a new world that we're living in. The name of war is called cyber war. It's called cyber. You attack with cyber forensics. You attack cyberly, and you shut down power grids. You shut down gas lines like we just had. And this is where we're at. And unless you solve that, there's a whole other thing to put in. I've seen it where it's unhackable, but you have to fix that, or you're never going to have an election again in our country's history. They asked me, Mike, would you were going to run for governor of Minnesota. Are you still running? And I said, I wouldn't run to be a dog catcher right now because it doesn't matter. The winners are not picked by us. And so that's, if God put me here with my pillow, a platform for such a time as this, Jimmy Kimmel, he said, why did they give it to you? Why would these guys, of all the people in all the world, you think it's a divine appointment, Mike, that you ended up with the evidence, some pillow guy on cable? And I said, no, Jimmy, I said, maybe it's just because I got the biggest mouth. And that's it. And then he said, if it was reversed, he asked me a key question, everybody. If it was reversed, would I still be sounding the alarm? And I said 100% I would. The only difference would be is I would be it'd take about 2 seconds to pull down the election. Let's everybody remember the Democrats warned us of these machines. My own senator in Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, they all warned us of cyber attacks through these machines, and the government didn't listen. They should have been capturing these packet captures, and they did. But so what I've done, or what I did since I got these from these patriots on January 9th, I have validated and validated the validators. They're called white hat hackers. Some of them work for the government, some of them don't. I've had all different ones come in and validate the data that I have, all the packet captures from the whole election. And now what I'm going to do with it is, as I've even thanked the media the other week, I was doing this thing at the courthouse and with Dominion in D.C., and I thanked all the media on the left. I said, I want to thank you guys for attacking me every single day for 5 months now to get the word out that I actually had this evidence that's non-subjective and 100% non-refutable. And I said, you know what? I'm shame on you, Fox, for not even a part of the cancel culture, not even having people on to talk about things. But what I've done then is now I'm going to have this called a cyber symposium. I am having that August 10th, 11th, and 12th, and it's going to be historical. It's going to change the world forever. I've got cyber forensic experts invited. I've got all the media invited, and we've got politicians invited from the state legislatures. They're going to get a second chance to go to see evidence now that they've never seen, and 100% non-subjective evidence. And once that's through, we've already got the case ready to go to bring it to the Supreme Court as a quo warranto. And everyone says, Mike, how can you do that? You can't. It's past the inauguration. Well, in our country's history, every elected official in history that they found out later a crime was committed, i.e. election fraud, if the real winner gets put in, and it's just never happened at the presidential level. So there's precedence.
Amen. Wow. So you got a lot on your plate. So the fact that the Lord said to you, I remember earlier in the interview, you said that the Lord said to you that he's going to remove your calling if you don't stop doing the drugs. And how did that make you feel, and what do you want to say to God for saving your life and putting you where you are today? And I'm sure you never thought you would see a day like this.
Well, back then it was on January 16, 2009. I knew that my calling would be gone. And I want to say, everybody out there, we all have callings. Some might be bigger than others, but I knew I had this big platform, and that my pillow was just a platform for God. And I feel very humbled that I was chosen. And I'll tell you, every day I think of the Proverbs 3:5-6. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. And always acknowledge him, and he will guide your path. I know I'm on the right path right now. I get confirmations all the time. And once again, like, what are the odds of this? What are the odds of this happening? And I look at those mathematical odds to see that, when do you call it a miracle? And, like you say, when my friends all see me in the White House with the president, and they're going, this is impossible. That an ex-crack addict is sitting in the White House next to the President of the United States, but God uses all things for good, and I just feel very blessed to be a part of it all, and it gives me strength every day. I want to tell everybody out there, this is not a time to live in fear. And I talked to someone the other day where this is when we're the city we're going to have the symposium in, which is Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And there was an official that called me from the city, very concerned that we were having it there. And he was a veteran and a patriot. And I said, you fought for our country and our freedoms. And I said, so now you're worried about the cancel culture and and these bots and trolls that have attacked since we announced this. And I said, it's like saving money for a rainy day. Well, guess what? It's raining. This is no time to live in fear. I live with no fear, just fear of the Lord, and it makes it very easy to keep moving forward. And that's what everyone needs to do now is, do besides being in prayer all the time. And I want to say, too, a little bit about prayer. People say to me all the time, Mike, I prayed, and things didn't happen. I prayed about this, Donald Trump getting elected. He didn't get elected, and I prayed for this and prayed for that. And I tell them, I said, I used to do that all the time too. I call them reactionary prayers, and they might not be God's will. And I tell them, well, where's God's will? And I said, God's will is in the Word. So by staying in the Word, you're going to find out that, you do your surrender to Jesus and then you stay in the Word. Your prayers align. You can be proactive in prayer. And that's really important, everybody, to be proactive in prayer because they're going to line up more and more if you're staying in the Word.
Amen. Now, I wanted you to talk to someone out there who's on crack, dealing with a drug substance. He's ready to give up. That person ready to give up right now. You've been there. You know what it's like. Why don't you, in like 10 seconds, give them some hope? Someone who been where you're at.
I'll give it. It's not just crack. There's meth. There's all addictions. Overeating. I don't care what it is. There's porn, sex, alcohol. Anyone out there that's mirrored in addiction right now, they're all looking for hope. Go to LindellRecoverynetwork.org. It's free, and I believe it's the best online help ever. My life and others out there, you can't change your past, and you can only use it to help and to learn from it and move forward. And I will tell you, what you're going to find at LindellRecoverynetwork.org, you're going to put in your age and your addiction, and you're going to see hope matches there. You're going to see others that have made it through, and that gives, you're going to see that they, just like I did back in the day when my friend came to me that was my match, that gave me hope. And I want to tell everyone out there that this is, you're going to wake up. You need a different input to get a different output. And I know that's kind of cliche, but you're going to wake up with this. When you finally wake up and you're still mirrored in addiction that's masking pain and stuff, you need to change the input, and you're going to see it's amazing.
Well said. Cameron, our engineer, his mother she absolutely adores you. Could you just say hello to her? Her name is Joanne. She's listening to this broadcast, and she just totally adores you. So you want to just give her a quick little shout-out by saying hi to Joanne?
Well, hello, Joanne. Hello, Joanne. You're looking good. I knew you would. One of my commercials.
You're listening to Reaching Out Radio, where God comes first. We want to thank our guest, Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, his testimony, which has, I hope, just, touch your heart. And again, visit our website at reachingoutproductions.com. We'll connect you right to Mike if you need some rehab, you want to get his book. And we're just looking forward to see what you're going to be doing in America. You got a lot of stuff going on, so you want to say goodbye to our listeners, and we thank you at the Rope Panel House and Cape Praise for conducting this interview.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. Thank you guys for having me on, and I want everybody to really keep the faith, keep the prayers up. We are in the greatest revival in history for Jesus ever, and it's all going to, when we get way out, and out in the future here, we're going to look back and you'll say, wow, all this had to happen to get to this great place we're going to be. So, and if you are, I can't stress it enough, if you are out there in addiction, go to LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. It's free, and I believe it's the best online help ever.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lindell. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Again, if you'd like to catch this broadcast, please go to our website at reachingoutproductions.com, and remember to access Mr. Lindell's if you need some recovery there. Rope is here to bring you hope, and that's what he did today. I hope he brought you guys some hope. Remember, we're on every week. Thank you so much, and remember, keep God first always, and like he said, read Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Don't fear. Put your trust in the Lord. He'll save our country. He'll save our world. He's God. He can do all things, and nothing is impossible for those who believe. Amen. Thank you, Mike. Love you guys. See you next week.
Thank you.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com. Reach out to all.
Reach out to all across the land.
Thanks for listening to Reaching Out Radio, where God comes first. Striving to deliver first-class entertainment spanning all forms of media, talking about important social and world issues, and advocating positive change in a lost and dying world. For more information, visit our website at reachingoutproductions.com.